Healthy hustle is where it's at. And today we're going to break healthy hustle down into the filter of sales in business. I'll tell you what is not healthy hustle. 67% of business development and salespeople being close to burnout. 67%.
Wow.
And this is due to long hours, huge workload, this need, this feeling of having to always be on. This study is from our book. We also found some other research that showed 54% of salespeople believe that sales is harder this year than it was last year. So when we look at this concept of healthy hustle and salespeople, I mean, that would be broadened as well. I'm sure the stats are similar for leadership and, all sorts of people. But today, looking specifically at sales, absolutely, there's this feeling of constantly chasing, always need to be on, always need to be available. And, there's some key challenges in the market at the moment that are really feeding into that. So, Ness, what are some of the challenges? Because I know we're going to talk today about the 4 ways to keep the sales hustle healthy. We've got 4 great tips to share with everybody. But why? Why is it so challenging and hard right now?
It's interesting, Nikki. This is now, I missed the anniversary, but probably a month ago, it was 9 years in business, right? And I think about pre-COVID times, post-COVID times, it's all the different various situations we've been through. But from my personal experience, from my peers, and from what I hear clients talk about, is that right now there are much longer lead times into converting sales. So I think there's a few reasons for that out there. One is what we notice is budgets are tighter. So it's not that money has gone, but it's that people are having to really carefully consider where they spend that budget. And I think that within that, the process then becomes there are more hoops to jump through because there are more decision makers. When budgets get tight, more people need to get involved in determining whether we're going to spend that money or not. And I think with that comes, the frustration perhaps that it used to feel a lot easier back in the day, and now it just feels harder. I also think that there's been such a lift up in AI, spammy stuff. You don't have to be on LinkedIn for a day and you get something spammy in your inbox, right? So there's less trust out there. Part of the reason I think people take longer is because they need to be able to build trust with somebody before they're ready to work with them and engage with them. So I think there's a few little factors going on in relation to this sense of I used to feel like really confident about my sales, but if I get knockbacks now more often than what I have in the past, it probably you start to, as a salesperson, potentially think, is there something wrong with me and the way that I do sales? I don't know. Does that
Mm.
resonate with you?
Yeah, and I think the motivation can drop, and also sales can be quite high energy, and it can be really hard to sustain that. I also think about the amount of spam phone calls we get. I mean,
Yes.
people just aren't. I
Yeah,
don't
right.
really even answer my phone
No.
anymore, and I think, oh, maybe I should because I am running a business, and we put our phone number. So if
That's
you
true.
do ring us, I will answer, but I am quite hesitant to answer. This is the reality.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That trust factor is huge. It's harder for salespeople to build that rapport. It takes longer to build that rapport. We know that the success in sales is in the follow-up. And so if people aren't being consistent and diligent, and whether it's an impact to confidence, impatience, not focusing on the right kind of areas, not focusing on the right clients, not pivoting, oh, I use the P word, to what is my service offering? Is it right for the market? Not changing the service offering too much. You can do that as well.
Yeah.
All these things are absolutely going to affect that salesperson, the leader, and feed into this feeling of always on, always going, the huge workload, because it's also really easy to be at the whim of the prospect or the lead or the potential
Yeah.
client. We still need to be able to have boundaries in place and work effectively, which is why today's episode really, really matters, because we want your sales force, your sales leaders, your sales people to not feel like they're always having to be on and close to burnout. We want them to feel like, yes, perhaps the market is tougher, and it's not tougher in all areas. It's 54%, not 100% of people said it's tougher. So we've also got to be aware that sometimes, I'm just going to say it, salespeople can be lazy and always looking for the shortcut. I mean, we're humans, right? So everybody can.
Yeah. But you know what? Sorry, go.
No, you go.
What I think is really cool about what we're talking about today. So, number one, people, this is Nikki's wheelhouse. This is where she shines when it comes to sales training and sales leadership. And, although I am a salesperson as well, this is where I just love to default across to you, Nick, because you have so much knowledge to share in this. And you have promised us 4 ways to keep sales hustle healthy. And so just wanted to say, to pick up on your point there, that even if you're in a situation at the moment where sales are coming in and it's going well for you, and it's probably, part of the reason why you've been hustling is to get to that level, you will still gain gold. And there is something you will be able to take away from this conversation. So with that all said, yes,
that is
go.
such a good point, because the hustle is either it ain't coming in, so we're going out to get it, or the hustle is it is coming in thick and fast, and I cannot keep up with that. So regardless of what spectrum you are on, these 4 key strategies will help for
Amazing.
sure. Yeah.
Let's jump into it. What's number one?
Okay, let's do it. All right. So number 1 is make sure that your sales and marketing are working together. Now, we recorded a whole podcast episode on this. We're going to put the link in the show notes for you. But just a little reminder, top of mind. Also, by the way, you can find more detail about these strategies and effective and evergreen sales in our book. Okay, I was just showing it on the YouTube channel.
Yeah,
so
healthyhustle.com.au.
Oh yeah, healthy, great. Also in the show notes. So when our sales and marketing are working together, there's some stats that show that there's an increase in revenue, 38% increase in conversion, 36% increase in customer retention, and in some cases, overall 200% revenue growth. Hello, who wouldn't want more of that? Maybe the people that are hustling too hard on the other spectrum. But here's the thing about sales and marketing working together. It's making sure that you are attracting your ideal client, marketing, and you're qualifying that it's the right person to work with, sales. So that's one example. That's one example where having our sales and marketing work together is actually going to make it easier for your salespeople. So yes, the revenue, the stats are amazing. That's what we want. And that means it will be much easier for your salespeople to convert. If we talk about shortening conversion time, we know that it's getting longer and longer. That's one way to do it. Make sure that your conversation to convert matches the promise that you're putting out there. And even if you don't have a full-on marketing team, everything you're putting out in terms of your message, what you offer, is marketing, even if it's not an elaborate big marketing campaign. So make sure that sales and marketing talk to each other, work together. The message is streamlined across from putting marketing content out there to the conversation. That's going to be really great to help keep the hustle healthy and really support your salespeople and sales leaders.
I really love that. And I remember back to that episode where we talked about the difference between, having them separate and then having them together, and how important it is to bring that. But you've got to be singing the same song, because if you're bringing in all these leads that aren't a match, you've got to give that feedback in between. And then if you're bringing in amazing leads, but you don't have great qualifying, you are probably missing out on some potential.
And it's surprising how often it is really completely siloed in businesses. So I know this is something that myself and Beck Chappell, we get on the soapbox around this as often as possible. Yes.
Amazing.
Okay, so that's number 1. Sales and marketing working together, being besties.
Okay, hit us with number 2.
Okay, so number 2. This is, they're all my favorite. It's like choosing children, which I would never do. No. So we want to move from a traditional sales process to an active sales process. What I mean by traditional is typically what I find in a lot of businesses is their sales process is, I'm going to wait for an email to come or a phone call. I'm going to wait for the phone to ring or for an email to come. I'm going to set a meeting, have the meeting. I'll then email them a proposal, and I'll become a proposal chaser. So they ghost you, you're constantly chasing, and then you probably give up, your confidence is hit, all of that kind of thing. What we want to do is turn that into an active sales process. So, really briefly, what that means is adding a qualifying component at the beginning. Well, first of all, I said it before and I'll say it again. If it ain't coming in, go out and get it. That's the other spectrum of hustle. But once you have somebody, a lead, a prospect, before the meeting, qualify, make sure that there's a process to actually ask a few questions. It could be a 15-minute phone call to connect with them, to ask them some key questions to make sure you're the right fit together. If they are, set up the meeting. And in between that qualifying process and the meeting, reach out on LinkedIn and connect, or send them a message to say, hey, really looking forward to connecting with you and meeting with you. Maybe there's some pre-information you can send them so that it's warming them up. Do something so that when you get that first meeting, it's not a cold meeting. In that, you know a little bit about them, you know they're the right fit, and they know a little bit about you. If you do that, you will absolutely shorten the conversion time. That rapport that we talked about that's really challenging to build, you're already building that rapport instead of not knowing anything about each other in the first meeting.
Amazing. And is this where that, oh, sorry, go.
No, I was going to say, no, what were you going to ask?
Is this where the BAM fam comes in?
Oh, yeah, Bam
Yeah.
Fam. So Bam
All right.
Fam everywhere. Bam Fam means book a meeting from a meeting. A shout out to MC Carter from Practice Paradox. I learned this from him many years ago, and it's one of my favorite things. Book a meeting from a meeting. So at all stages. So that way you're in the calendar, you're in there, you're top of mind. I was also going to say, when I say qualify, think about the three most important things about your ideal client or customer, create a question out of that, and there's your qualifying questions. Done.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, that's certainly everything that you're saying. I'm going, yes, I remember learning that from you.
Yes, we have it in place.
And we
Thank
have it in
goodness.
place. Awesome. All right. So we've hit number 1 and number 2. What's number 3 to keep from having hustling?
Healthy hustle. Ness, I think this is one of your favorites, and it's don't only rely on emails. Too many people just rely on emails. Now, this is when we're talking about establishing relationships and nurturing relationships. So when we look at leads, we look at cold, warm, hot. The first start cool, they don't know much about you. Then they get to know you, they're warm and hot, they're ready to buy. So we want to look at how we're building relationships from the point of view we're establishing new relationships and we're nurturing existing relationships. So many people rely on sending emails, and I know we all know it because we all have those emails in our inboxes, and then that's it. They only rely, but I sent all these emails. Think about it. There's no cut through. If you're going to do an email, and I'm not saying don't do emails, but don't rely only on emails to establish connections and relationships and to nurture. Get creative. Get creative. 5 touch points is what we talk about all the time. So if it's an email, do a Loom in the email. Get them to see your face. Connect on LinkedIn. Do a voice note. Karen Tisdale is going to love that we're sharing this. Our LinkedIn expert, profile writer, trainer, oh my gosh, extraordinaire. Do a voice note on LinkedIn. If your platform isn't LinkedIn, send a text message if relevant and appropriate. Send a voice note on text message, messenger, look at your different platforms, handwritten thank you notes, handwritten notes, get creative. Don't only rely on emails. And actually there's a list of interesting and creative touch points in our book as well that you can refer to for those of you who have a copy.
I think that this was a big one for me because when I was in my first business, I had this sense of I didn't want to be annoying. And I felt like if I kept on reaching out to people, they would find that really annoying. And yet on the flip of that, sometimes I just love it when a salesperson follows me up because I've got it in the back of my mind. I've got to do something. I've got to ring them, but I'm busy. So I really think in this environment too, like a minimum of 5 and be creative. that is also really helpful because, like you said, a LinkedIn connection or a voice note is another touch point. So this is
Yeah.
one that really resonated with me, and I had to shift from that belief set around, I don't want to be annoying. I'll
Yeah.
send 2 emails. Obviously, they don't want to work with me.
Okay.
to
So, and even what you said, sorry, I cut you off.
no, no, no,
And
no, go.
even that they don't want to work with me. So we assume too often, and I love this perspective you're sharing. You're a business owner. You're
Mhm.
busy. We are busy. The decision makers for your prospects and potential clients, they're really busy. And that's what I would also put on as a biggest challenge is that the people we're wanting to work with, reach out to, sell, they're busy. Let me tell you, we are not their priority.
No.
Which is exactly why they got their things. Like if you think about what your
Mm,
priority is, so until like they desperately need us, then we become a priority. And this transcends across all different types of products and services.
yes.
So get in the mindset of them. And the other thing I would say is I saw your eyes lit up a little bit when you were talking about it. When we're more creative with how we're reaching out to people, it's more enjoyable.
Yes.
It might not be fun, it'll be fun for some, but it is more enjoyable. And then that energy comes across as well.
Absolutely. Love it. All right, let's
Okay.
wrap this up. What's the fourth?
The fourth one is understand your sales team's sales archetypes. So we all fall into 4 different behavioral styles, and we can also bring that across to sales. So the 4 sales archetypes that we all fall into, we're usually a combination of 1 or 2, are the initiator. So they're really driven, action takers. The influencer, they're the ones that are really charismatic, the entertainers, but maybe not the best at the detail and the consistency and following up. Supporter, very nurturing, caring, will take care of the potential leads and clients, but maybe not as confident in reaching out to establish connections, might hide behind emails a little bit more. And the specialist, who are really technical experts. They can really simplify complex problems, but also more introvert type of energy, so might not be as action taking. I actually wrote an article, which we'll put the link in the show notes as well, that goes into more detail about the 4 different sales archetypes. And the reason that this matters is that we can, when we know our team's natural strengths, we can help them work to their natural strengths. What time of day is best for them to do cold calling or outbounding or cold reach outs rather than cold calling? What time of day is best to do the nurturing, the more one-on-one conversations? Because different archetypes will actually lean into different strengths around all of the requirements that are needed as an effective salesperson and sales leader.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing those 4 different ways. And I feel like we could have a podcast on every single one of them because they are like your knowledge base and your skill and expertise goes very deep in each of these areas. So we've just kind of, what's that saying? We've just touched the surface or something like
Yeah.
that on this
Tip
topic.
of the iceberg? I'm not, yeah. I don't
Something.
know. You get it. You guys get it.
So as we wrap up, Nick, given all of that, and there's so many different options in there, and I'm sure that some people will really resonate with many of them, but some will really stand out. What would be a great actionable action for our listeners to take in the next 24 hours to ensure that they're getting out of that unhealthy hustle and really keeping that sales into the healthy hustle aspect?
Well, I'm going to do 2. One is
Because you're an overachiever.
exactly. Why, thank you. No, that's not good. That's not a good belief to have. I really want people to first of all look at, are you qualifying your clients? Do you have a process in your sales process that you really clearly qualify? It could be a form on the website, like I said, a 15-minute call, but do you know what your qualifying questions are and how do you qualify before your salespeople are spending time with them? So that's the first thing. And the second thing I would say is, do you actually know the natural strengths and ways of working of your team? Check out the article because there'll be clues in there. When you know the natural strengths and the development opportunities and stretch areas of your team, you really can help them succeed. So one around the sales process and one around the people in your business.
Love it so, so much. Thank you, Nick. I get so excited when I see your energy around sales, and I trust that our listeners and viewers have also picked up on that and learned something new today. So thanks everyone for tuning in for another week, and we will see you next time.
Let's go sell.
Bye.